they? Well, it is somewhere different, yet again. I wonder if anyone local to this area of Nottinghamshire will recognise this. There's a clue in the noise that you can hear, actually. This is the old Ossington airfield. In World War II, home to Wellington bombers, I believe. Now, home to farmland. Now, I'm going to have a bit of a wander around and see what we can find. So what's here then? What could you expect at a site like this? Amongst the remnants of summer's poppies, present day crops and past crops of oats. Not very often you see oats. Well, it depends on what your specialities or interests are as to what you're going to find. I've always had the saying that there's always something somewhere, and that is very true. You're not going to find lots of stuff. Look at the spines on that, crikey. You won't get out of that in a hurry. But you're not going to find lots of stuff, or rare stuff, should I say. And you'll find bits and bobs. And there's obviously been a lot of caterpillar activity here. And there's the signs of partly eaten leaves. And a lot of caterpillars, because all this has been stripped. So this may well have been something like buff tip, rather than one caterpillar with buff tips laying large batches of eggs. Here's something, look. The harvestman Dicranopulpus, presumably Ramosus. I really need to start and take some of these pale specimens. Dicranopulpus Ramosus. A little leaf beetle there, look. The more you look, the more you'll find. But we are getting late. You'll find dog walkers up here, that's one thing you'll find. But it's quite an interesting site, really. I've never really covered it, but you've got typical field edge stuff. So you're going to get quite a few ground beetles here, leaf beetles and weevils. There's not too much in the way of nectar at the moment to attract a large array of flies or Hymenoptera. This rank kind of vegetation would probably turn up Coryzus, Hyoscyami. Ladybirds, yeah, just see a 7 spot there in amongst this lot. Dock bug will certainly be here somewhere, probably on a dock. But you will get the odd good bit. Sometimes it takes a bit of finding. The habitat's not extensive, and with it being crop fields, it's largely just a crop and very little else growing in amongst it. I have a few bits here, so but the most interesting part of this site for me is the history of it. And heading up there, that's not my car. That's the end of the runway, and it's on us. This airfield is on a gradient, and it slopes gradually from left to right as we look at it here. But at the back of that car, and where that popper tree is, it literally drops off all of a sudden. So if your plane hadn't got enough oomph in it, by the time it got to the top of here on the runway, you were in trouble. And there are a couple of pillboxes built into the bank there. But we'll wander a bit further, have a look down the runway. Well, that's where I walked from, and this was obviously one of the taxiing routes across the top of the airfield. Remnants of a building there. I'll say, tucked in this bank somewhere, you can see now how it drops off as you look over towards Laxton, which is just on the skyline to the right of the screen. It does drop off fairly sharply just here. State worker there cultivating the field, ready for the next crop. One of our most colourful and largest shield bugs, and this is hawthorn shield bug. Though, despite the name, not confined to hawthorn, but pretty much anything that does have berries on it. You'll get them in gardens on cotoneaster, and this one is on cherry. This is quite a fresh adult, nice colourful thing. They do become even more colourful as they prepare for autumn. And there it goes. We'll put that back up there. I say, I ought to have really bought the old beating tray with us, but today we'll make do with just a bit of visual searching, which is my most preferred method. We have here actually a nymph of green shield bug. On these keys, field maple. That's probably got one more molt to go, or instar to go, before it becomes adult. And here's that old building, old doorway, and the wall in front totally protected from potential bombing. This protection from the blasts. It's a fair sized airfield, I must admit. To be honest, we'll have a look just to, while we're here. I like old ruined buildings and things, you never know what's going to be tucked away in these kind of things if we find the right. There's Amarobius spiders, that's a dead cert. replace anything that you pull out. My mother-in-law used to work on here in the stores in the war, and there was one big storeroom. Storerooms were largely separate then, and people didn't like going in this storeroom. It was a big place, and she said it was the spiders. She seemed to think that there were something unusual. And she said that when you used to go in, if you shone a torch, you could see the eyes of these spiders. And she said it was full of them. And those buildings would have been right down there in front of the trees in the distance, because that's where the main hub of the airfield was. There used to be quite a lot of buildings on at one time. A lot have been demolished now, or partly demolished. But it's amazing to think that if you stood here during World War II, there's a good chance you'd have had Wellington bombers hurtling towards you at a rate of knots. Now it's more serene. And I say it's on top of a hill. You can see over in the distance there. You can see the A1 actually by the looks of it. That's north of Newark, well north of Newark. Now it's rather more peaceful. I'll have a walk along there, see if we can find it. Sloe and the berries are a truly beautiful colour when they're untouched. And this powder that they're covered in rubs off, and the true colour is almost like a blueberry. I've yet to try sloe gin, so there's an idea one day. And looking at this, it's a good year for sloes. Sloe, of course, the proper name is blackthorn, or Prunus Spinosa. That's the scientific name. And there's a good crop of it on here, and somewhere on here there's likely to be a leaf mine with a stigmella that's really obvious. At the moment it's not obvious, because it doesn't look as though it's here, unfortunately. Don't tell me I found the only bit of prunus without it. It looks like I have, you know. So we can't talk about that. And there's one of the outer perimeter tracks. Still one or two crops to get in on here. And a bit breezy. Very little in the way of trees here, and what there is mostly ash, which is all showing signs of ash dieback. See here where it dies off. But it doesn't look as though it's going to be as bad as what we originally thought. Although in the first place, for a tree that seeds so freely, why we were bringing them in from the continent, I'll never know. Let's see, this one's died down this length, look, but now it's put 3-4 feet of growth on. And here again, we have your typical Dicranopalpus ramosus with the infamous Zorro mask. So there's every chance that this one is Dicranopalpus ramosus rather than Dicranopalpus caudatus. Really need to start taking some specimens of the males of likely caudatus. It's in Nottinghamshire without a doubt. Just that nobody's got off their arse and looked for it. Including myself, really, I suppose. So, I'm going to walk down there and back to the car. This looks like a red kite heading towards me. Let's tuck ourselves in here. It's just low over that haystack. I'm coming this way, so it's going to follow this tree line, I would imagine. I had to on the way here, after half a mile down the road. And we'll watch this, we might get quite close to this, so I'll shore up. Looks like it's dropped down the other side. Never mind, can't have everything, can you? I've just been looking in these bales and I didn't realise what was down there. But we've got a wasp nest. There's a bit of straw that hangs down that's sort of lighter tanner coloured, and it's just to the left of that, deep in that hole. And you'll see the wasps going in and out. And you can actually see the nest. The entrance to the nest as they go in. You'd certainly know about it if you pulled this old bale to pieces. There's one or two coming out, and it's never wise to stand in the flight line of a wasp or a hornet nest. That's when you ask for trouble. So despite having a big head, I'm keeping it low and will casually move away. And that's where it is, in that old bale. The size of these bales now, God, they're enormous. I don't think 4 blokes could pick one up. Not in the old days when one person could. So I'll continue. They plod back. It looks as though we might be getting a bit of rain soon. Just a quick video because I've just turned a stone over. There's a couple of nests under here. The nest of Myrmica rubra there. And this, which at first I thought was a field mouse nest, but it isn't. You'll just be able to see the occupants in there. This is the nest of Bombus pascuorum. The comb and the cells is just visible through there, look. So we need to be careful how I replace this stone. Here is said stone, big chunk of stone, so it's time to put it back.